Hello. It's a beautiful day in August, beautiful final day of August, and I decided that I needed to go book shopping. Because I just needed to, okay? Like there's no other way around it. And I am glad I did, because I found this amazing, beautiful, like almost perfect copy of Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which I've been dying to read. I got it for $8 at the Goodwill. I'm so excited. They had a paperback copy of this book. Not a paperback. What am I trying to say? A trade paperback copy of this book, a smaller version, and I didn't get that one even though it was cheaper, just because I like this copy so much better. And they also had a hardback copy of Hellbent that they were trying to sell for $8. I'm surprised. I'm honestly shocked that they accepted that copy onto their shelves, because it was a mess. It was an actual mess. I don't know who hated that book. I don't know what that book did to somebody, but somebody did something to that book, and it was quite sad. I also got I got 5 plays to go in my classroom, since I just lent out a whole bunch of plays. A lot of these. Yes, Freya, you have something to add? Okay. And we are on our way home. We only stopped at one bookstore today just because I wanted to just get out of the house and just have a good time. But anyway, I got 5 plays to add to my classroom library. These are really advanced plays, but I think that it's gonna be good to have them on my shelf anyway, even if I just want to read them, you know? All right, so we are going home now, so I can tell you everything I read in August and everything I DNF'd in August. And yeah, so happy August, happy fall. I'm so excited to read Ninth House now. I'm going the wrong direction down this road. Shh, don't tell anyone. All right, bye. I mean, we could be doing something better with the lighting. Absolutely. Will we? No, because I'm wearing these glasses. All right? I'm wearing the glasses, and you can't stop me from doing that. Hi, I'm Brenna. Welcome back to my channel, where I talk about things that I'm interested in. And really today, I'm just talking about what I've been reading, because that's the activity that I've been trying to focus my energy on when I am not working. I have survived August, which means it's an officially fall. So I'm wearing my sweater. Yes, it's still 90 degrees outside. No, I'm gonna keep my sweater on, thank you. Let's talk about what I read this month, because I did read a lot. Unfortunately though, I only read really one book off my shelf, which is a little disappointing for me. I wanted to read more books off my shelf, but I have to be proud with what I was able to accomplish. The fact that I started school back up again, which means I started work back up again, and I still was able to read a lot and read something off my shelf and enjoy it. So I have to get so much stuff together. Getting back to it. Got all my stuff together now. So what was I talking about? Okay, yeah. This is just gonna be a reading update. It's just gonna be a reading update because I don't have the energy to do a full, just going through things of what I've done this month. So I'm just talking to you about what I've read. It's later in the day since I went book shopping earlier, and I will show you what I got. But first, I want to talk about what I've already read this month and what I'm currently reading, and then talking about what I plan to read in September. It is officially fall. Not really, because I live in Florida and it's going to be 90 degrees for probably the next 3 months, but I'm still pretending like it is. I'm wearing my fall sweater and I'm getting comfy and cozy and doing all of that fun stuff. So let's talk about what I read in August. I only read really one book off of my shelf this month, and we'll talk about that one first. I read Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This book is about 2 young Nigerians who immigrate to America and London, and how their relationship basically disconnects, reconnects over the course of time and their travels, and also Ngozi Adichie's reflections on being a Nigerian and going to America and dealing with the race situation that's happening in our country and her perspective on that as a African. It's fascinating. There's a lot of interwoven like blog posts about her perspective and like how she basically becomes this name in America and how she's able to live there and then going back to Nigeria and reconnecting with her high school sweetheart. I love the story. I love the characters. I thought a lot of it felt like a very specific experience, and she made it feel so relatable. As a person who has never, well, I have traveled outside of my home country. However, I traveled to a country where I was white and the majority of the population were also white and English-speaking people. So I didn't have the same kind of cultural reaction that the main character in this book goes through, and subsequently potentially the author, what she went through. And I think that that perspective was very interesting, but also incredibly, like, I don't know, relatable as a seeing it through her eyes and seeing the way that the story kind of unfolds for her. Definitely going to be looking back on this book. I have made several tabs, and I think I will want to come back to this book eventually just to look through it again, because I did listen to a lot of it on audio, and the audio narration was spectacular. It really helped me with understanding not only how to pronounce some of the names in this book, but also understanding like the way that people talk, because that is a big part of the book as well. Really liked it. Glad I have the audiobook as well, and definitely will be going back to it. 5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. Let's go back to the beginning of August. And I did finish a musical. I read Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. This was actually not the original musical that was produced by Rodgers and Hammerstein. I didn't realize that. It was originally produced as a short TV musical starring Julie Andrews, and then later another lyricist playwright also like approached Rodgers and Hammerstein and was like, I want to make this a real Broadway musical. And so this is the adaptation of the full-length Broadway musical of Cinderella. I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was definitely interesting to see how they expanded on many of the characters and adding a lot more conflict within the story itself, especially between like Cinderella and the prince and his kingdom, and all of that. The original was very straightforward, very much like true to the original like Disney version of Cinderella. I say that with quotes because it's like the original Grimm's fairy tale version with less depression. Like it's the Disney-fied version of I think you understand what I'm trying to say here. My point is the addition of certain elements in the Broadway version was very interesting. There's almost like this like insertion of social justice into the musical of like the prince should be being a good, moral, just king and not just like letting his right-hand men or whatever run the country instead. So like very interesting. And it also kind of helped characterize one of the stepsisters as less of a villain and more of a like redeemable character. I liked it. Thought it was interesting. There's a secondary romance plot that's added in. I think it's a really great adaptation of Cinderella and not, I think, what originally people expect when they see this musical. So I do think it would be interesting to read with students. I haven't quite put it on the curriculum yet, but I am looking at it. I'm going to talk about the books that I DNF'd this month after I talk about the ones that I finished. So the next book that I actually finished was Annie Bot by Sierra Greer. I saw a really bad review of this book. I think like I saw a review where like a person had a really strong opinion and didn't like it. I don't agree. I really, really, really loved it. I thought it was a really cool way to tell an AI, an artificial intelligence story. I talked about it in my back to school vlog. It's basically about this AI robot who is like the leader of the AI movement. She's the most advanced AI that this company has built, and she is a cuddle bunny, which is basically a sex robot. And the guy who has created her or commissioned her, who owns her, is kind of a douche. He's basically made this AI robot in the image of his ex-wife, except with lighter skin. And he's very clearly dealing with the issues of that relationship and hasn't quite fully gotten over them. And so we are reading this narrative through her perspective, through the AI's perspective, and how she sees the world and how tied she is to her owner, and how much her intelligence and like story is limited, restricted by that, but also how clearly she wants more. Really great story. Like, I recommended it to a friend and they picked it up immediately and then was like, we need to get together and talk about this. Like, we need to have a whole discussion, because it is one of those books that really makes you want to talk about it with other people. So highly recommended for like a spicy book club, or even like a feminist book club, if that's something you're into. I will definitely be talking about it with my friends and recommending it to my friends, because it is something that I feel like as a woman you really do need to read. So fantastic. Absolutely 5 out of 5 stars. The next one that I finished this month, I just finished it like yesterday, and it is Break to You by Neil Shusterman. This is the new release that he co-wrote with 2 other authors. I'm going to put it up on the screen, but I think they're both women, and they have clearly done research on juvenile correctional facilities and the system in which juveniles are in these like prison systems, essentially. It is about a girl who has done a crime, and I don't even know if we're ever really like stated or understand exactly what she's done, but she clearly has like was hiding something for someone. Like, she took someone's paraphernalia and they blamed her and told the cops and said that it was like her whole plan, when she was just like the scapegoat, basically. So she has to go to this correctional facility for a year or however long, and the only thing that she really wants to bring with her is this journal, and it's like her only way of like expressing her feelings about her situation. And she accidentally leaves this journal in the detention facility's library, which is shared by the boys area as well. So it's like one of the areas that the girls and the boys use, not at the same time, but her journal goes missing. She can't find it in the library, and then she finds it, and it is a boy who has found it and has written back to her, has read her journal and written back to her. And at first she's very much like, hello, like breach of privacy, like what the heck is wrong with you? And then they start up a correspondence that turns kind of romantic. So it's this like romance story set in this perspective of this juvenile correctional facility. So there is this much larger, deeper message about young people and the situations that they get themselves into, and then also the people who are in charge of them while they're in this detention facility, and how manipulative and just wrongful, kind of perspectives that those people have about the kids, and how it perpetuates them in this system, and they really never are able to redeem themselves. I think the story of Break to You is a much nicer story than what you would typically see in real life, like on Scared Straight or on other, real life stories of teens going to a prison or to jail. And I think that is one aspect that I kind of knocked a star off for, because like it is trying to tell this really powerful message, but at the same time it feels a little bit like the message is overpowered by the romance plot, because it does get a little cheesy in the middle. And while it's exciting, and I was like flipping through pages, especially right before I had to return it to the library, I just felt like I just felt like there was some things that seemed a little unbalanced, and it did feel like definitely it was like a fictionalized story of teens in the system. I still want to mention, as I didn't talk about this yesterday, but there were several instances in this book where the main male character's name was misspelled. Like, it seemed like his name was supposed to be spelled Jon, but it was spelled John like several times through the book. And to me, that was just such an obvious editing error. It took me out of the story several times. And I'm kind of shocked that it made it through the editing process, like however many times that happened. But it was very clearly like, I don't know, it was just a tell to see that there were multiple authors in this book. And also just kind of took me out a little bit. Still liked it though. Still really enjoyed it. Had a great time. Okay, so let me talk about the books that I did not finish this month. And that is the first one I got about halfway through and I had to quit reading it. And that is Fourth Dimension by Eric Walters. I mentioned in my back to school video that I really love the Rule of Three series. This is a spin-off of his Rule of Three series. And I hated it. I didn't hate it. I was enjoying it. I was like able to kind of get over some of the things that I didn't like about it till about 40% when the female main character, the teen female main character, is just making a lot of very old, misogynistic, girl-hating things. And I just, I was not here for it. I mean, not in 2024. I can definitely skip Fourth Dimension and be just fine. I will find another interesting book with a teenage girl as the protagonist. And then the other book that I did not finish, I got from the library. It is Under the Harrow by Mark Dunn. And I'm going to be honest, I barely even started it. I only got through like the preface. And I'm telling you that I really want to read this book. I really, really want to read it because not only do I love Mark Dunn, who wrote LMNOP, but I also read the preface and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be such a good book. The problem is it is super long. It is a chunker. And I am gotta be honest and real with myself. I am barely, I'm here, okay? But like, I don't have the capacity in my brain to read that book. It is like a modern day Dickensian thriller is how it's pitched, but it is basically, Mark Dunn does this in LMNOP too, where there's like this country that's like basically isolated from the rest of the world, the rest of the civilized society, and they are living in like 1800s Victorian Dickensian era England, and very like backwards, but it's like 2004 in the timeline like of the real world. And so one of the kids in the town, he says like he's like kind of slow or whatever, but he leaves the town, like escapes the town and goes into the real world, and everyone's like, doesn't he know? No one ever comes back. Like, doesn't he know how dangerous it is? Blah, blah, blah. And he supposedly comes back. And that's the premise of the book. And I really, really, really want to read it. It sounds so good. It sounds like right up my alley. But I know that I'm just not going to be able to dedicate the energy or the mind space to that at this very moment. So I had to put it down to pick up another time in the future. I did get it from the library, so I did have to return it, and I knew I wasn't going to finish it before I had to return it to the library if I did start reading it. So I was just like, send it back, and I will come back to it again at some point in the future. Those are the only two books I DNF'd this month, and then I am currently reading The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake on audio. And I started reading this as a library book, and I had to send it back because it was on hold for somebody else. So I was just like, okay, I'll just listen to the audiobook. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through just listening to the audiobook. I am a little over 50% through this book. And it's giving me all of the vibes I want, right? The secret society, the like magicians, the like group ensemble cast of characters and flipping back and forth between their perspectives and stuff. It's definitely there, but some of the voiceover actors for certain characters are really just irking me, and it's really getting to me, and I'm listening to it on my commute every day, and I already hate driving, and it's like I'm just getting irked, and I'm not enjoying the book. And I don't know if it's because it's the audio and I'm just like not enjoying the audio, or if I just need to like not listen to it on my commute. I don't know. But I don't think I'm enjoying it as much as I should be enjoying it, if that makes sense. So anyway, I'm going to keep reading it. I'm going to keep listening to it, and hopefully it gets good. The other book that I'm currently reading is one that I got this last month from a friend of mine who we know the author of the book. It's the sequel to The Shoals Across the Winter Ocean by Corey Gannon. I am just a little ways in. I just started it last night, and I had to like kind of jog my own memory about what happened, what was like the last things to happen in The Shoals, but I picked it up pretty easily. We're following a character named Malice who has basically been shipwrecked and fought his way back to his country to find his daughter, only to realize that she's not there, and he has to continue chasing her. So it's like one of those epic stories, and I'm like so excited to read this and finish it, because I do have to give it back to the person who let me borrow it from them, but I'm enjoying it so far, and it's like kind of perfect for like the fall vibes. All right, so let's talk about what I got at the bookstore today, because I know you really want to know what I got. I talked about this earlier. I got Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is such a nice copy. Like, it's so like pristine. Just hardly even, like, it doesn't even look like it's been read. Okay, so yeah, I got that, which I'm super excited about, because this is another book that I think I'm gonna really, really enjoy. They did have a different copy. They had the trade paperback, but I don't like reading trade paperbacks. So I got this one instead, which just happened to be so perfect. And then, of course, they did have a copy of Hellbent. I can't believe that they put that on the shelf. Like, the way that they did, it was almost like the dust cover was like hiding this huge flaw in the book. Like, if I had a lot more crafty skills or whatever, and like all of that stuff, I would definitely have bought it and like tried to fix it up. But I don't have that. I just want to get a good book, pay $8 for a broken book like that. That's crazy. Then I also got 5 plays, and I'll tell you what they are, because I really don't know if I'm going to put all of these on my shelf at school or not, because I know that they are really plays that honestly a lot of high schoolers read, or college students, English literature students read. But I thought I would just keep them in my play library just to have. And if any student actually does pick them up, maybe that'll inspire them. Okay, the first one is Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. I can't say that I have seen scenes from A Streetcar Named Desire, but I don't think I've ever seen a production of it. And I certainly haven't read the play all the way through. So this may be staying with me until I read it. And then the other one is another Tennessee Williams, The Glass Menagerie, which is another one that I feel like I have read. Like, I felt like I read it in an English class, or maybe I was supposed to read it in an English class and I didn't. But anyway, again, I think I'm going to need to just reread it again before I put it on my classroom shelf. Okay. And then I got a copy of Fences by August Wilson. I do have a poster of this in my classroom, so I felt like if I have students ask about it, which I have had a couple students ask me about Fences, I can kind of give them a play as reference. The other one I've literally never heard of. It's called The Visit by Friedrich Dürrenmatt, German playwright. I have no idea what it's about. I don't know how to describe this. I don't even know. I'm reading the summary, but I cannot tell you like what it says. I don't even know what the sentence is meaning. I don't know. It just looked interesting. honestly. It just looked interesting. It looks like it's something like Crime and Punishment, but I don't even know if it's like that. I really don't. So I'm going to go into this blind before I put it on my school bookshelf. And the last one I have read. I know I've read. I may have forgotten it, but I've definitely read it. And it's Endgame by Samuel Beckett. I remember doing an assignment on this when I was in high school. So I definitely know that I have read it. It's just going to be another one of those places. I know I loved it. Because I love Samuel Beckett. But again, I'm going to probably have to reread this one to remember what it's about, because it's been so long since I've read it. And those are all the books that I got today at the bookstore. So I obviously am adding Ninth House to my TBR for September and potentially into October, looking at how many books I want to read for the fall spooky season. And here are my fall spooky season TBR picks. Ninth House, hopefully it's good. The next one I have been talking about for months, and I know I need to get to it, and I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it this month. I'm probably going to read this before I read Ninth House, just to get it off my shelf, just to be like, okay, I read it. I'm done. Cat's Eye by Margaret Atwood. It's about a young girl who gets a, what am I trying to say? She gets an heirloom from her family passed down. She's a artist. She's a painter, and she's like exploring like who she is. It's supposed to be disturbing, hilarious, and compassionate, which Margaret Atwood definitely is able to accomplish, I think, based on the readings that I've read of hers already. Disturbing, hilarious, and compassionate, like I'm here for it, and I'm gonna read it. This is next. After I finish Winter Ocean, Across the Winter Ocean, I'm going into this book. I have to. And then the other one that I've literally been talking about since the start of the year is Veronica Roth's The End and Other Beginnings. I'm gonna like do a little tag team, I think. Like a couple chapters here, a short story here, and maybe I'll be able to get these done. I have to. These are like my priority for September. This is my absolute number 1 and number 2 priority for September. We have to get to these. The rest of these I've had on my shelf for like a year or two, but they're all kind of spooky. They're all kind of like Halloween, spooky-ish, fall type books that I want to try and read. So we'll see how far we get once we finish the priorities. And that the first is The Hazel Wood by Melissa Elbert. A student donated this to my class library, and I have been just dying to read it since I saw it, because I was like, oh my gosh, look at that cover. Look at how cool that looks. That just looks like so much fun. There's a forest, there's a city, there's a gate with a tree, there's like pages, like there's just so much like to see on this cover, and I just like, it's entrancing to me. It's so entrancing. So this is something I definitely want to read for like this spooky fall season. The next is, I think, a romance, which will probably be the only romance that I get to this year, is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. I haven't heard spectacular things about it, but I've heard interesting things about it, and I love how like witchy and cute it is. I love a good witch protagonist, okay? Like, I don't care what type of book it is. Just give me a witch protagonist. If it's a romance, great. Even better. The last book for my spooky season TBR is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I have read V.E. Schwab before. I read the first book in the Colors of Magic series. The one where there's like different Londons, which I really want to read again because I felt like I didn't read it. It was like one of those books that maybe I listened to and I didn't really listen to it. So I'm going to have to go back to that series. But this I picked it up at the bookstore like a year ago because it looks so cool. I thought it just looked really like looked good. And it seems like it's witchy and it's historical fiction, which I'm always here for. And I know this has like hit a lot of people's lists in the past. I'm probably really behind when it comes to reading this book, Story of My Life. But yeah, I do want to try to get to this during the spooky Halloween season. We'll see. So yeah, that's it. Those are my books. That's what I'm reading. That's what I've been doing. I did start watching Only Murders in the Building last night. The first episode is out. I am in love. I am hooked. I am entranced. I hate that they let out only one episode a week. But at the same time, I appreciate it because then I feel the hype about the show a little bit more. But I also have no one to talk about it with. So, like, if you're watching Only Murders in the Building, what do you think? Do you like the new season so far? I did like the celebrity meetup, right? Like, the premise of this season. So, like, each season kind of has its own theme. This season is, like, Hollywood themed, where the trio is like getting a movie op, and so they get to meet the celebrity actor who is playing them in the movie. That was really funny. I thought that was really cute little interaction between Martin Short and Zach Galifianakis. That was just like, God, the comedic timing was just like on point. And then of course Steve Martin, like he plays his comedy so well. Like even as like an older gentleman in Hollywood, I think he just plays his comedy so well. He's like stuck really well to his like his brand of comedy. I think it works so well for him. And his interaction with Eugene Levy, I think, again, was really perfect. So anyway, I'm enjoying that. And that's pretty much it for what I've been doing in August. And I think September is going to be interesting. We will see how it goes. I've got some things I'm working on. A lot of things, in fact, that I'm working on. So not a lot of time to do reading, but like, again, I said, I'm trying to focus my activities in my downtime, which is not a lot, is trying to read my books. Have a fabulous day. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.